Welcome to the Tennessee Leadership Training Institute Interview Like a Star session. Today we're going to talk about the STAR method for interviewing when it comes to behavioral type questions. The STAR method stands for situation, task, action, and result. So why do interviewers use the STAR interviewing format? Jobs and positions that behavioral questions are good for include those when you're interviewing for a role that requires communication, problem solving, decision making, leadership, and teamwork, which nowadays is just about any job that you're going to be applying for. These types of questions are a great way to see how candidates have used their skills to overcome challenging situations, and it gives employers insights into the candidate's thought process of what goes on when they're trying to make decisions regarding work. STAR interview format is a technique that is used to answer behavioral questions. As I mentioned, it stands for situation, task, action, and result. By preparing for STAR interviews, it allows candidates the opportunity to give quality answers using real-life examples. These behavioral interview questions help an employer to determine if a candidate can handle certain aspects of a job. These kinds of questions assess if a candidate has experience in a relevant situation, how they act during certain situations, and how they define certain concepts, such as a high-pressure situation or a challenging task. You'll know you're being asked a behavioral interview question if it starts off with, tell me about A, describe a situation, give me an example of, or have you ever. The STAR format is a great opportunity for you to provide concise and useful answers, and you can structure your responses to the behavioral questions using the STAR format. An employer can get to know their candidates better and determine if they have the background to be successful at their company. It also gives interviewees a chance to show the value that they can provide in a situation and the challenges that they have overcome. This is really important if you're making a transition from school to career or from one industry to another, so you can show the parallel experiences that you have had that can translate into this new position. With the STAR format, a candidate creates a story with a conflict and a resolution. And as an employer, you can tell if the candidate has prepared by how easily they flow with their story and how easy it is to understand. So when you're talking about STAR, the situation, this is when the candidate describes the scene and provides relevant details of their example. You're going to look for an answer that explains the context of the situation and why it connects to the question that's been asked. For task, the candidate will describe their role in the situation. This can help determine what level of responsibility they have had in previous roles. When you describe the action that you took, this will address the situation and what steps you took to overcome the challenge. A good answer is going to show how you added value to the situation and made a logical decision. And finally, results. At the end of your answer, you will explain the outcome of the situation. A quality answer is going to include specific examples and quantifiable achievements, and they should explain the direct effect of your effort in this answer. Here's an example question. Tell me about a time you overcame a challenging situation at work. In the situation, you would say, at my previous job, our senior graphic designer resigned without any notice. Since she led the graphic design team, we initially didn't know what to do in her absence. The task? As the junior graphic designer, I decided to take it upon myself to make sure all of her work was completed on time and to the client's standards. The action. To do this, I met with a creative director and asked him to train me in the areas of her job that I was not familiar with. Then I worked through my lunch breaks for a week straight to get the work done. I delegated easier tasks to the interns. And what was your result? In the end, the client ended up loving the work. We were actually able to get the work done a day early. The creative director was so impressed by my efforts that he offered me a promotion as a senior graphic designer. So it's a simple situation where you describe what happened, what you did, and what the result was. Let's try another example. Describe a situation when you had to work with a difficult customer. All of us who've ever worked in sales or anything with customer service would have an example to go with this. So here's the situation. When I worked at the garden nursery, one customer was upset that we did not have her favorite tulips in stock. As the customer service representative, it was my responsibility to think of a solution to her problem. A major part of my job was to make sure the customers left the store happy. After checking her inventory, I saw she was incorrect, so I kindly explained that we moved the tulip display. I guided her to the display. She said that we still didn't have enough for her garden, so I contacted our seller to speed delivery of more bulbs. Since I took the time to work with this customer, she went from upset to happy during our interaction. And later that evening, I noticed she left us a 5-star online review and mentioned my name. So those are 2 examples of behavioral questions. My suggestion to you is to practice. Practice makes perfect. Invite your instructor, a family member, or a friend to Zoom with you or to do a Microsoft Teams call with you to practice your interviewing technique. I would suggest that you even record that session so you can watch yourself back. A lot of times we're not aware of fidgeting or moving in our seats or particular aspects of our backdrop until we watch ourselves back. You want to look at things such as your lighting, your backdrop, your attire, camera angle, volume of your the video, and so forth. I'm going to provide you a list of behavioral questions on the next slide. And so you can share these with the person that you've asked to interview you and ask them to randomly select 2 to 4 questions in any order. And once you do that, ask them to rate your response, to give you feedback of what they liked, what they thought you could do better. The more you practice with a real setup like this, the more comfortable you will be when your actual interview occurs. Here's a first practice question for you. Describe a time when you had to deal with an angry or frustrated customer. So just like the one we went through, you would say the situation, the task, your actions, and the results. Here's a second practice question. Can you think of a time when you successfully motivated friends or colleagues to achieve a difficult goal? So you'll think about the situation, the task, your action, and the results. Here's a list of 12 of the most common behavioral questions that are asked in interviews using the STAR method to answer. Some of these are going to deal with things like high pressure. When have you handled a huge pressure? They're wanting to see what you consider huge pressure. Describe a stressful situation. Once again, that can be at work, that can be at school, that can be something that happened in your personal life. Give an example of how you dealt with conflict in the workplace. Number 4 is a big one. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you handled it. All of these questions you really want to think about and prepare your answers in advance, because in the moment, if you're thinking about them just in the heat of the moment, your memories may evoke emotions that will come up and they will show through your volume, through redness on your skin, through your eyes. And so you don't want to have negative emotions tied to your response. You need to be able to speak about them in just a very factual setting. You also need to think about things such as describe a time when you achieved excellence at work, or what is your greatest accomplishment. A lot of times we focus on conflict questions or ethical questions, and we don't think about how do we brag about ourselves. And sometimes that's kind of challenging for us to do. So if you're struggling on what was your greatest achievement or what is the best trait that you have, ask your family and friends to help you with that, because a lot of times they will give us insight into ourselves that we're not even aware of on our own. I've also included a link to a YouTube video that specifically talks about using the STAR method to answer questions. This is another great resource for you to use as you are preparing your answers to behavioral questions. I hope that today's training is useful to you and that you will be able to use it in your next interview. And I wish you best of luck as you pursue your career goals. Thank you so much for participating today. Goodbye.